In today's video, we're going to be focusing on whether Bitcoin is ready for its parabolic phase in the cycle, because we have two phases left. It's the post-halving reaccumulation period, which we're in currently, and the post-halving parabolic upside that we are going to be preparing for through this consolidation. So subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Let's dive into today's video and talk more about this in a lot of detail. So Bitcoin has been consolidating at these highs. This is a typical reaccumulation range that you see develop in the post-halving period. We've seen this multiple times in the past. Here in 2020, for example, we saw two micro reaccumulation ranges develop as a larger macro reaccumulation range, and we saw this price action breakout from this range 160 days after the halving. So this is essentially where the red square comes into play, essentially accounting for history repeating itself with a 150 to 160 day breakout period. And in 2016, we also saw 150 days or so. In fact, this should be right over here. The red should go on to here, in fact. So that would be 150, 160 days. But the only difference here was that we actually broke out, pulled back and retested the top of this range and then rallied towards the upside. We didn't really see that in 2020. We just rallied without looking back. But if we look at price action and the current few months that we've seen, or actually the current several weeks that we've seen here, we're already at the range high resistance. And what we've seen in 2020 at this point in the cycle was also price trying to break out and revisit this range high. And in fact, we broke out even higher to develop the new range high right over here before rejecting. So that's quite interesting to see that we're seeing 2020 be quite close to 2024 in the sense that we are seeing a breakout, or we've seen a breakout over the past 2 weeks, and now we're at that resistance. But when we consider 2016, for example, and the 40 days after the halving, 2016 was really lagging behind in that respect. So according to 2016, 2024 is very much ahead of schedule, because in 2016 we were just hovering at the range low, slightly starting to begin the rally, and then only a few weeks later we revisited the range high here. So 2016 is lagging behind the 2024 price performance, and the 2024 price performance is pretty much in line with what we saw at the same point in the cycle in 2020. That's very interesting to see, because we've been seeing 2016 really closely mimic, or at least 2024 closely mimic 2016. We were seeing that loads of tendencies were repeating. For example, the danger zone after the halving, 2024 repeated 2016 in that respect. Of course, the downside wick wasn't as long, but then we saw trend following for a brief amount of time, and then 2024 started to separate itself from 2016. And in fact, 2024 is starting to resemble more 2020 at this point in the cycle. So it's quite interesting to see how 2024 is going to be a hybrid of 2016 and 2024 at this moment in the cycle. But if we look at, for example, this reaccumulation range, we always see a reaccumulation range around the post-halving period. That remains to be the case 2016 as well. But generally speaking, 2024 has been seeing multiple reaccumulation ranges develop over the course of the cycle, which is very 2016-like. So we do see lots of cross similarities between 2016 and 2024. The reaccumulation ranges here are very similar to what we're seeing in 2024, and the post-halving danger zone is very similar to what we saw in 2016. But there are elements that we're now resembling 2020 more, in fact. But when it comes to altcoins, this is a pathway that I spoke about in mid-February that we're really following quite nicely here. We rebounded from this blue level, rallied to the red region, rejected here after brief upside deviation, back at the $250 billion level as a support, and now we're recovering from here, and continued upside from here should get us to this light blue circle over time. I don't know how much time that will take, whether we're going to achieve this in this quarter hype cycle or in Q3. But the thing here is that this upside, Altcoin Market Cap is preparing itself for that sort of upside. And this ties in with the Q2 quarter two altcoin hype cycle that we're starting to see bottoming out here in the altcoin market. We've definitely seen downside wicks and just construction of a base at this region here just above the $250 billion level. So we're seeing bottoming out structures form in the altcoin market cap, also in many different altcoins. So it does make sense that this is going to be the bottoming out period for altcoins in general. How long is it going to last? That still remains to be seen. This is now altcoins being on the cusp of a new quarter two hype cycle, and we've seen phenomenal performance from the Q1 hype cycle. We saw fantastic upside late in 2023 from the Q4 altcoin hype cycle. Could we still see that phenomenal upside once again in this Q2 altcoin hype cycle as we go into the thick of summer? Because the Q2 hype cycle is going to occur regardless, but we just don't know how strong or how weak that Q2 hype cycle is going to be. You could argue that if this is going to be a weak Q2 hype cycle, then maybe Q3 or Q4 will be even stronger as a result. Really depends on how we perform here, but everything is aligning perfectly in terms of timing. We are currently at the bottom of this lowest hype region, which is also the point of maximum financial opportunity. And then later, near the end of the quarter, we're going to get to a point where altcoins are going to materialize their rallies, mature in their uptrends, and then reach a ceiling that they won't really be able to break, as the hype has really just translated into price action and valuation increases. And this is where that point of maximum financial risk is before deflation in the valuations across the entire market, really. Predominantly altcoins suffering the most, but also Bitcoin would probably see a pullback at this time as well, or at the very least a reaccumulation period once again. So the stars are aligning here timing wise, but also altcoin market cap building out that base and preparing to follow through on this altcoin rally. But the last thing I just want to mention here is that history is suggesting to us that we could be consolidating here for a few more months, because 160 days after the halving means that September would be a breakout for Bitcoin. So really that does translate into further consolidation for a few months if history is going to repeat itself. And history is suggesting that we won't break this range high resistance anytime soon. At the moment, this 70-day, 75-day consolidation period is reducing the rate of acceleration that we're seeing in the cycle. When we saw this old all-time high get reached in mid-March, the rate of acceleration was 260 days. Now that we're seeing a 75-day reaccumulation period, that rate of acceleration has reduced to approximately 180 days. It would be fantastic to continue to see this reduction in the rate of acceleration through additional reaccumulation and consolidation at these highs. Will we get it? That remains to be seen. History is suggesting that we should get that sort of extended consolidation, but we are just one weekly close away above the range high resistance to enter a parabolic rally. Weekly close like here, you can see that that's exactly what's needed to break out from here. Weekly close right over here as well. Retest, rally towards the upside, and then we get a second retest, which isn't something that we get often in a post-halving reaccumulation range breakout. Sometimes we just rally and never look back. So history is suggesting additional consolidation, but if we get a weekly close, that won't matter, because history, essentially Bitcoin would go against the grain of history if we get that weekly close above the range high reaccumulation range. But at the moment, we're forming a lower high relative to these highs. So this is a lower high already in the making. History is suggesting we'll move sideways. And if we continue to move sideways, maybe this is going to facilitate some of those altcoin rallies and the altcoin market cap to increase in its general valuation, altcoins in the market wide to continue increasing in their prices. And really, the stars are aligning. The stage is set. Are we going to see that? Are we going to see the Q2 altcoin hype cycle really materialize and see altcoins start rallying across the board? Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Like this video if you enjoy content like this going forward. I'm Rekt Capital, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.